Welcome back. It's one of Australia's most baffling and bewildering cases. A dead man found on a South Australian beach with a cryptic scrap of paper in his possession and no clues to his identity. 73 years and countless theories later, we are on the precipice of finding out who the Somerton Man really was.
Yeah, and for more on this, we are joined by forensic expert Dr. Xanthe Mallet. Thank you so much for being here this morning. I mean, it is just fascinating, isn't it? The Somerton Man's body has now been exhumed. What's the update?
Well, they have the human remains. They'll do a full forensic analysis. That would include looking at his bones to see whether there was any evidence that you know, of cause of death, because that's one of the big questions here. How did he die? But really what's interesting is the DNA analysis that can now be undertaken that wasn't available, you know, in 1948 when he originally died.
So Xanthe, I mean, we were just talking about this in the ad break because we're fascinated by this story, you and I, but as a forensic expert now, how good is our technology and how much do you need of the remains to actually work out what's going on?
Well, you only need a very small amount of the remains. So the problem might be that the DNA has actually been contaminated by something in the environment, in the soil, or it's degraded to such an extent that they can't get a full DNA profile. I'm hopeful with our modern technology we actually can, though. We're very good at that now. So we have all sorts of opportunities. He's not going to be in a database, but through familial testing, for example, we may get some really good clues as to who the Somerton Man actually is.
What do you think?
Oh, well, there's so many theories, aren't there?
I think spy. I think Russian spy.
Well, you've got to look at something kind of along those lines. You know, he had clues sewn into his clothes, the labels were all cut out, no identification document on him, and he died, you know, of unknown causes. The pathologist said it's unlikely to be natural, but couldn't determine what it was. So many questions. You have to wonder whether we are looking at some kind of, you know, something interesting like a spy.
It's crazy, isn't it, to think that only now we may actually finally get some answers. We want to talk about another familiar case to many, particularly in Adelaide. It's the disappearance of the Beaumont children. The reward for new information stands at $1 million.
Yeah, so I'm hopeful we'll still find answers in this case as well, but it's a bit different, Somerton Man. Without bodies, and I do sadly believe the children are deceased, but without knowing where they are, it's very difficult to move this case forward. So we're really relying on somebody coming forward with information, a tip-off, you know, that may take us to a body deposition site, something like that. But I'm never giving up on the Beaumonts. The father is still alive. The community need to know what happened, so I keep my fingers crossed that somebody knows something that's going to help.
Yeah, it's one of those ones growing up in Adelaide that we were talked about all the time.
Yeah, right.
Now, New South Wales' oldest unsolved homicide is the Wanda Beach murders. Now, that's been 56 years, that one. What about this case? Do you think this will be solved?
Yeah, again, I think that this is a difficult one. I think somebody probably knows something. The offender may still be alive if they, you know, the two girls were thought to have been going off to meet somebody. I think a teenage boy, that seems the most likely. And they met a very brutal death. So that person may still be alive. Have they talked to somebody? Has somebody seen something? There was evidence that was recovered from the scene, but sadly that's now been lost. If the police could find that, then that could move that case forward. So
and has that person committed another crime? That's the other thing.
I would think so. If you commit a crime that violent, I think
get away with it.
Yeah. I don't think you stop there. So
Xanthe, great insight today. Let's find out. We'll talk again when we find out more about the Somerton Man.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you,
Xanthe.